Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This video is going to be a very basic introduction to React Fiber. We'll be covering a lot of basic stuff so that hopefully by the end of this video, I think you can dive deep into React Fiber. But first of all, if you are just starting it out, I'm assuming you're familiar with React itself. And React Fiber is just a React renderer for Three.js. And basically it allows you to write React components which allow you to create 3D stuff in the browser. In simple terms, I'm trying to explain it. But if you're interested in more about understanding how you can create your own renderer, I have a basic video on it also on my YouTube channel. You can check that out. Other than that, we can get started now, I guess. So what we can do is like let me first of all create a React project using White. I'll be using React, JavaScript, and let me open in Visual Studio Code. Let me do one thing. Let me remove all the extra stuff and come back. I went ahead and removed unnecessary stuff from the app.js as well as other unnecessary files. I've also went ahead and installed dependencies as you can see from node modules. Let me come to documentation and just copy this line also. Just paste it. This is going to basically install React 3 Fiber, Three.js, as well as the types of Three.js. Since React 3 Fiber is a renderer of Three.js, we need Three.js also as a dependency. And let me close this and let me again open this in a new app. As you can see, we have hello world here somewhere. You can ignore it. We'll anyway remove it. So what happens is like since React 3 Fiber is basically allows us to write 3D stuff you can say in components. So what I'll do is like I'll create a experience component itself. And mostly whatever we do in React 3 Fiber needs to be inside the canvas. So I'll just have the canvas as you can see here. Let me just use that in the experience.jsx file. Now this has basically made it a canvas and let me import it. As a whole, React 3 Fiber is quite huge and React 3 Fiber depends upon Three.js. So in one way, I'll not be able to explain, basically I'll not be going too much deep into Three.js itself, but I'll be referring it how much ever is required while going through React 3 Fiber itself in this video. And let me come back to the screen. As you can see, there's a black background. Just let me open it to show, let me show it to you one thing. As you can see, this is a canvas and WebGL needs to be rendered inside a canvas. And the WebGL is basically what Three.js uses to create 3D graphics. And React 3 Fiber Underhood uses Three.js. So in one way, canvas is there. So something is there in the UI, you can imagine like that. Now we need to basically create a box cube because it's kind of a hello world for 3D graphics in general. So let me create it. For that, what I'll do is like I'll be creating first of all a mesh. You can imagine mesh is a 3D object which has two things. One is the geometry and the other is the color, you can say, or shininess, roughness, etc. So I'll be giving it a box geometry. I'll be giving it a basic mesh material. Sorry, mesh basic material. So box geometry is going to basically give it the structure of a box, and mesh basic material is going to give it the color. The different kinds of materials which you have in Three.js, which in one way are we can reference in React Fab itself. Let me give a color of orange for now. Save it. Let me come back. As you can see, we have a cube. It doesn't look like a cube, so let me rotate it somewhat. For rotation, you can basically rotate on a mesh level itself, and you can basically pass it like this as in vector xyz something values. But I'll just rotate around the y-axis. So what I can do is like I can do rotation y and just give the y value only, which is going to be 2, just to show it to you that's secure. As you can see, it has rotated now. Now basically we need to Let me first of all show you the documentation also so that you are aware about it. Like I told you, reactive fiber depends upon 3Js. So this is the box geometry which we are internally using it. And as you might have noticed, saying box geometry as a Pascal case, I guess, but we are using camel case. So this quite it's a quite common there. Like whatever we have Pascal case are converted into camel case in reactive fiber. So anyway, you can see the box geometry. You can see other shapes also. But as you can see, we have a width, height, depth, etc. So we can modify that. And this is basically a constructor function you can say for box geometry which takes width high in a specific way. So what we can do, we can pass these values also to our, by default it's 1 1 as you can see somewhere. Uh, yeah, it's 1 1 1. I can give it another value also. Let me give it to show it to you. I've given height, width and breadth as 2 to 2. The cube has become bigger now. If you would like to make it rectangular, as you can see. Now let me remove this. Let me show you to other properties also. One is the position. And position also can take vector. I'll give it just x just to show it to you. And it can also take scale. And by the way, just to be on the same page, positive x is on the right direction, you can say, and positive y is on a top direction, and positive z, I think, is towards you. So that's why, just to clarify, if you're not able to understand how how all the values are coming up. When you give just a one values for scale, it's going to basically scale in all the directions, and so it's looking somewhat weird. Let me give it only 1.2. As you can see, we have this, and let me save it, and I think I can remove all this stuff now. It was just too meant to show it to you. I can just now what we'll do is like uh, let me convert this into a component like how we normally deal in React Fiber. It's quite interesting. This is how it becomes very powerful in one way if you're able to leverage React to basically create 3D experiences. So let me just cut and paste all of this stuff. Like how normally how you use a component, you can use like that in here. And by default, what I can use, like how we can pass props, we'll be passing props here also. So I'll get position here and remove the rotation. I'll keep the rotation for now. And I can give a color also. I'll again take it as a prop. Now let me pass them here. Position will be somewhat of a, like I told you previously, we can give a vector value. So I'll give x as 2, y as 1, and z as 0. Color, I'll give it as orange. Let me save it and create a couple of more cubes. -2, -2, -1, 2, -1. Let me give different colors to it. Let me save it. Now we have the cube here, and these are the values. Let us see what is being shown. As you can see, we have 4 cubes now. And one more interesting thing is like you can basically group these cubes also using something called group, which is again provided by Three.js, which we can again use it in React Fiber also. Now let me give it a position also on the x direction. Let me give it 2, 0, 0. So it moves along the x direction. As you can see, it has moved. So in one way, basically what you can do is like you can basically use group to basically group your components and move them around together. This is very useful. It's heavily used. Either you so I that's why I wanted to show it to you. Anyway, we can just remove it for now. And this is the cube and this is the group. Now what happens is like in most of scenarios you'll not be using something called mesh basic material. The reason being mesh basic material doesn't interact with light, and in most of the experiences which you'll be building, I assume you'll be building which I'm assuming that you'll be building interactive experience which you might need light. So that's why I'll be using something else instead of mesh basic material, which is gonna be mesh standard material. Let me remove this. And the problem comes up is like when you use mass generated material, you need to have light also in the scene. Since we don't have any light in the scene, that's why you can't see anything. And you can see light is one way like how we normally need light to see in our environment. That's somewhat of an analogy you can take. So we need to add the light here also. So there's different kinds of light available in Three.js. Let me show in a Google search, which I done previously. These are just to name a few, as you can see, and I'm going to be using ambient light as well as direction light. Ambient light is going to basically give you illuminate all the objects in your scene, or you can say in your canvas. Hence, you can see the object now. They have some light, but it's not looking quite good, you can say. So you can add something called direction light here, which by default is going to point towards the center of your scene. I'll be using a helper to show it to you how it looks like. As you can see, it's somewhat like you can imagine rays of sunlight parallel to your coming to a scene. But it will become more clear when I use a helper to visualize it. You can ignore it for now. But anyways, one more thing, let me show it to you. There's something called intensity also. And intensity is quite important parameter because it decides how much elimination will be done. As you can see, it's very less. By default, I think is 1, I guess. But you can ignore it for now. You can add just a default one. And by the way, if you need to know all of this from where I'm getting to know about it, you can come here and check out light. As you can see, we have something helper which I'll be using later on. But as you can see, we have a lot of lights: ambient, direction, hemisphere, light probe, etc. So these are the lights, ambient light, as you can see. So mostly when if even if you're interacting with React Trigger, you need to come back and forth to Three.js because mostly React Three.js is just a renderer for Three.js. So most of the logic of Three.js is going to be applied. The only thing which gives us a lot of advantages like writing our experiences in React components. Other than that, one more thing which helps us is a library which is called React Drei, which has a lot of things, interesting thing, cool things you can say. I would suggest you to check it out, and it's honestly speaking, they add a lot of components every time somewhere, every time. So it's very interesting in one way to see all those materials or all of these things. Obviously, I can't go through all of them, so I'll just be taking a couple of them as we go through. But I think that was it for this part. So let me now maybe uh, install this, I guess, React 3D. For this, you need to come on the top. You need to install it. Copy this and come here and paste it. Let me come back when it's installed. It has been installed, and other than that, let me first of all uncomment this and let me show two more things before we dive into Reactive Fiber Ray. So one more thing is like first of all, we need to go about animating this cube. So for animation, what happens is like just to be on the same page, animation is nothing but a sequence of frames, basically all static images which move very fast, so that our eyes perceive it as a motion. So for that reason, what I'll do is like I'll be using a frame a hook which is provided by React 3 Fiber itself. This frame is going to get a lot of parameters. I'll be using only the second parameter. Just let me open state and delta and let me do console.log first of all to show you what is there inside. As you can see, we have a lot of things going on here. Let me expand one of them. Delta is a value which is the time frame, the time since the last frame has been elapsed. If you're familiar with React request animation frame, you might be understanding it what I'm trying to get at. I'll not be going too much depth in here about delta and etc. because it becomes too much overkill, I guess, for this introductory video. But you can check it out and in the request animation frame MDN docs. But anyway, state is basically gonna get a lot of details for us with the 3J scene. You can ignore it for now. So we have the delta, and like I'm assuming that you have experience with React, you might know like if you would like to access a DOM element in the HTML, if you basically like to get the access in the React, basically you'll be using useRef. So something similar we'll be doing here. What I'll do is like I'll create a ref here, and I'll basically reference the mesh object here, so that I can basically get access to this mesh, or you can say 3Js instance, and use that to manipulate this cube. So I can get the cube ref dot current. I can give it a first of all let me console.log it to you to show it to you once. As you can see, let me clear everything. This is the mesh object which represents this 3D cube. So what I'll do is like I'll just be rotating it and let me just expand it to you. This mesh has a lot of things. Let me explain one of them. It has, you can say, rotation somewhere. I'm planning to modify it. I'm not going too much into depth about quaternion, Euler, etc. here. I will just be manipulating rotation, value of a object, you can say. So you have current. I'll be using rotation dot y plus equal to delta. So this is basically going to give us a very thin value, and since it's rotation, sorry about the typo, it's basically going to rotate around the circle. So hence our will start rotating. This was it. And one more thing, just to let you know, it's very important, I guess, if you're completely beginner at reactive fiber, you can't use reactive fiber hooks outside of canvas. So as you can see in experience, you have canvas. So as I try to use reactive fiber here itself, or make my point very clear, let me use in app.jsx. I'm not going to do anything here, just invoke it. As you can see, it's saying uncaught reactive hooks can only be within the canvas component. It's very important. That's why creating your components makes more sense. And let me remove that also. So save. Now with this animation frame, one more thing which I want to point out to you is like how we normally have click listeners in our HTML. We have something similar. Obviously, it's not exactly similar because Underhood is doing 3J stuff. Let me come back here in events. So we have a lot of events on click, on context menu, etc. If it gives you somewhat some similar behavior if you are expecting it, but under the hood, it's using something called 3J's Raycaster to do a lot of the stuff. You can read this documentation for more details. I'll just show it to you briefly. Like mesh, in the mesh, basically I can give an on click. So that whenever a user clicks on this mesh, we'll be able to listen on the on click event and do a couple of things here if you're interested on it. Let me do console.log. Yes. Save. We'll come back here, refresh it. And whenever I click on any of the object, as you can see, we are getting some details. It has a lot of details. It has a distance, current target, event object. We see which event has been clicked. So you can check it out later on if you're interested. Other than that, I forgot to mention you need to do eat or stop propagation also. It's mostly to not allow this, whenever you click on this cube, it should not affect the other cubes or anything else in the scene, which are listening for the on-click handler. For more details, you can check out the documentation. Anyway, I'm just adding it, doesn't matter much for our scenario anyway. Okay, all of the cubes can be clicked. This is, I think basics for this one. This part, I think, and now we can focus on reactive fiber. So first of all, I think you might be feeling annoying that we can't interact with a 3D scene. So for that, first of all, since I've already went and installed the reactive fiber Drei package, let me come to canvas and let me import the component also. Most of the things what we'll be importing should be inside a canvas if it was not clear till now. It has to be inside a canvas for it to work. So I'll be using orbit control, something called, which is again provided by reactive Drei. Now what we can do is like we can basically move our scene. So we can interact in our scene, we can zoom inside, we can zoom out, cool stuff. Other than that, let me now go through a couple of them, which I feel interesting. Obviously, there are a lot of things which are interesting, but I would say to check it out later on. First, I'll go with the text. You can basically copy this line, come back, and let me add it below here. Let me give a color of white. Let me save it, come back. As you can see, hello world. It's a basic 2D text. It's very hard to create by normally doing in 3JS, but it becomes very easy in reactive fiber. You just need to add this way. Then we can come back and check out text 3D itself. Let me come back and open this code pen, which I think I've already opened. Let me open it back. Here the thing is like you need to basically pass a font URL as well. Sorry, here. So if you're interested, you need to basically pass a font URL. So what I'll do is like for sake of simplicity, I'll copy this interval.json. Let me download it. I can just cut it, come back here in the public. Let me paste it. close. So now we have the JSON file. So what we can do is like we can just come here and just copy these lines of code, text 3D. I'll just copy this much part only. I'll comment this text for your reference. I'll just ignore all of this stuff and let me first remove this mesh standard material and just write hello world. Save it, come back. As you can see, we have the text at center. It looks somewhat weird. We'll be fixing that. First of all, let me change the material if you're interested. If you would like to change the material, like how it was there previously, you need to give mesh standard material if you're interested. Or you can use something on mesh normal material, which makes it somewhat interesting, I guess. Let me save it. As you can see, this is how it looks. And if you would like to completely center it around, you need to have some use a center component again from React Drei. Sorry about that. So we have the center. Now let us see again. As you can see, text has been centered. So this was how the text was centered. And honestly speaking, there are a lot of things. Let me see if I wanted to show anything else here in particular. I would really suggest you to at least go through it once if you're really interested in Reactive Fiber. At least to know that something exists, because otherwise it's very difficult to know if something exists in the first place. So I think this was it for the basic stuff. So now I think we can go with the more interesting stuff, which is I think debugging basically UI scenes. So first of all, as you might have noticed, like I'm manually coming here and checking what values are there and how it looks in the scene. So why not have something which allows us to basically do it in the scene itself? So there's something comes which is called Leva. There are other tools also like Little UI, I think I forgot other names, but which are for 3Js. You can use them also if you're interested. But I'll be using Leva here, which is again from the same community which are building or working on Reactive Fiber. So let me copy this, come back here, paste it. Let me copy this line itself. And now we need to come back to cube.jsx or maybe experience.jsx. Let me import use controls and let me give it group position x, group position x. I'll be giving it a value of 0 by default. And as the name might have made it clear, I'm trying to send it to position here. I need to basically destructure it. So now when you use control by default, it's going to add it to a UI itself. You can do more interesting stuff with here as well, but I'm just trying to keep it simple. As you can see, we have a UI here, and you can change the values also. As you can see, we're able to move. I think I gave it somewhat different. Let me give it the position X, save, refresh. As you can see, it's moving, it's very small. Now we can do more customizations to it. Let me do it. First, I have to give value as 0 again. Then I can give a min value, how much want a minimum value to be. Then I can give it a maximum value, which can a lot if you are interested. I'm giving min and max. Now it becomes somewhat of a different UI. As you can see, I can move the cubes together in a group. So this was it for the Leva as well. Now I think the more interesting thing is like using 3D models, which obviously we are going to use anyway. So I've come to this marketplace here. There are lot more models as you can see. Let me come back here, market. You can check them out, but I'll be using this model itself. So what I will do is like first of all you need to download the model. What I'll do is like I'll copy this model, come back and paste it in a public directory itself. Close it. Now there are a couple of ways you can use a model. I'll be showing you two ways. There's one more way which I'll be ignoring it for now. So first of all, we need to create a model here. I'll be creating model 1.jsx. So let me create a component here, and we need to use something called primitive, which is provided by React 3.5 itself. This is gonna basically take our contain our model itself. And for this, we need to basically import the model. So for importing model, what I'll use is like, since I've imported a GLTF model, the different formats of models, OBJ, FBX, etc. I'm not going into too much detail. For web, it's more performant to use GLTF. So I'll be using that itself. Again, you have a helper here. You can do in a different way using, let me show it to you in the documentation. Loading models. You can basically use something called a loader provided by Three.js, GLTF loader, and you can use it. I'll be using somewhat differently here. I'll be using the US GLTF hook provided by React 3.5 by Drei. So here we need to basically get the path. This is going to be the model, and model is going to have something called scene, which we need to pass it back here. This is now going to allow our model to be added. Let me do one thing. Let me come in the experience of JSX and let me comment the cubes as well as the text. And let me add the model, save it, come back, refresh it. As you can see, we have the model here. It's quite small by default. And let me add the Leva also. I guess it's not required for this. I'm just commenting them for you to check it out later. So anyway, we have the model here now. So this is one of the ways of using the models. And now I think I can show you another way which is using something which is more interesting. So if suppose you are interested in changing this model, maybe removing this some of the parts of this model, or you interacting with the model like how you were interacting with a cube and mesh, etc. Like in the mesh you were able to do on click, etc. So what you can do is like you can come to here something called GLTF JSX. They also have a version of in the terminal you can use. I'll be using the online version. Here you can basically drop the model here. So I'll drop it here. This marketplace, by the way, let me show you one more thing. This marketplace also allows you to copy some stuff. I'm not sure why it's disabled currently, but anyways, you can anyway come here and just do it. So what I'll do is like I'll just copy this model itself and come back here and just create another model. Let me paste it. So here again, I need to get the path, which is by default correct. Path you need to give is should be correct path here. In here, by default, is going to be public slash, so that's why slash is going to work fine. And here I'm using preload, somewhat like how we have like web fundamentals. It's like just preloading the asset to make it more performant to load the model. And here one more thing is like now I can come back here and I can just comment this line. And I think the name is wrong. As you can see, we have the model. And one more thing is like you might have noticed here. Here we are also basically spreading the props. So here we can pass a scale also in one way. And by the way, group also you can do all the stuff, not just position. You can do scaling, rotation, etc., which you can normally do in a mesh, I guess. Or you can say object 3D also. Anyway, scale I'll give 2. Let us see how it looks now. I'm refreshed it. As you can see, it has become bigger now. And now what we can do is like we can use couple of animations also. Let me come back to the model itself. As you can see here, there are a lot of animations, if you can see. So what I'll do is like I'll just be running these two animations only, first and second one. So to use the animations, let me come to model2.jsx. Let me write use effect so that the animation starts in the first time. And by I'm not going to, by the way, like if you're interested, like how it happens inside, basically this animations are converted to action clips, which Three.js understands. Let me do one thing. Let me do console.log actions. As you can see, we have actions and it looks empty, but it's not empty. I don't know why, but anyway, you can come here and just see the animations. As you can see, it's an animation action, which is something which Three.js understands. We'll be using that anyway. So let me come back here. Where is it? I'm gonna using course Cavalier and I think course loop. So let me what now what we do is like we have to come write actions dot, let me just write it, and we just write play. This is gonna basically play the animation, this animation, and now the second animation is we need to make this horse riding. It's I think course low, not sure. I'm just copy paste and make it course loop. Not sure the pronunciation. Save, enter. As you can see, we have the this one running now, running animation. Again, there are a lot of things in which you can do in animation, and let me show you like how I told you previously. As you can see, we have the mesh here. So suppose if I remove this itself, this component, as you can see, the wolf has gone off. It's not there now. So that in that way, basically, you can manipulate this. I'm just showing you one teaser, you can say, but there are a lot of interesting things we can which you can do here. I think this was it for this whole video, I guess. Honestly speaking, there are a lot of things which obviously it's never ending. So you can check out this Drei package stuff. It has a lot of components. I would highly again suggest you check them out. Like I told you previously about one of the components which was like I think for directional light, I guess. Let me do control F, use helper. This is one of the helper where basically you can pass this box helper etc. from 3.js and use it to highlight the mesh. In our case, it might be direction light etc. And there are, again you can use the directly the shapes also. Again, there are a lot of things which obviously I can't cover in this one video, but I'm planning to maybe make more videos on React 3 Fiber, etc. 3D.js and 3D in general, basically. And one more thing is like if you're interested in AR, by the way, on using React 3 Fiber itself, I also have one more playlist dedicated to it where I went through how you can basically create um, AR experiences using React 3 Fiber itself. It uses the package which is again created by Permanent community. I'm not sure if I pronounced it again, sorry about that. But it's called React XR, I guess. Let me see where is it. Mm, here, VR with React 3 Fiber. So I've also went ahead and created a whole playlist dedicated to it. This again is on my YouTube channel. You can check it out. And I'm planning to have more videos also on React 3 Fiber as well. So if you're interested in React 3 Fiber 3JS Web 3D in general, I would suggest to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any videos which are going to come up soon. Anyway, I think if you're interested in the code, you can get the code in the this GitHub link, which will be in the YouTube description. Anyway, hope to see you in other videos as well, and bye.